Hi everyone, Mike Holmes here. This is the Know Your Reno podcast, where listeners will hear from experts from Improve Canada. Whether you're building, designing, renovating, or learning, this podcast is for you. Improve Canada is a fantastic home improvement and education center. You can speak to multiple showrooms about your project needs. Custom furniture, decor, landscaping, general contracting. Get your tiles from one showroom and your countertops from another. You can really mix and match to have the reno of your dreams. Everything you need under one roof.
Hi, my name is Olga and I'm the host for this week's episode. And today we have Linda talking to us about how the residential home is changing.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here. My name is Linda Kafka, and I am one of Canada's leading experts in aging in place, living in place, and wellness for the residential built environment. And it's a great opportunity to be here with you, Olga, so we can talk a little bit about how residential design is changing and what not only the consumers but the trades need to know as we start to transform the home.
Absolutely. And what are some of the major shifts that you've been seeing lately?
Well, some of it's based on demographics and a lot of it is based on health and wellness. So I think it's fair to say that 2020 and 2021 has really been pivotal in terms of how we look at our home from a wellness perspective. But prior to that, we were looking at the home and how it was changing as it related to the demographics. And so some of your listeners might say, what are you referring to when you talk about demographics? We're talking about the Canadian population and how our population is aging. And so when I talk about aging in place, many of your listeners may not know that we have more than 1,000 Canadians turning 65 every day.
Wow.
And this is going to continue for the next 15 years as the last of the baby boomers are aging. What's important to know is that many of them are homeowners and many of them want to age in place, meaning they don't want to go to a retirement home. So we have a tremendous amount of homes that in the very currently right now and as we move forward that are going to need to be modified to allow people to age in place. But let's get away from the word aging and look at the word which I like to use is living in place. Because when we look at the demographics and recognize that there are all kinds of people out there. We've got people that are born with disabilities, people that acquire or unfortunately have a temporary accident or something that might affect them from a long term. People that have different kind of progressive conditions. There is no perfect person out there.
Of course.
So if you look at the population, everybody can benefit from how the homes are being modified and changed to accommodate different needs. So I like to say that our homes should adapt to us as our lifestyle changes, and we should not have to adapt to our homes. And so through this conversation we're going to enlighten our listeners and so that they'll have a better understanding of what we're talking about. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, everybody needs to live well within their spaces. So
when we're talking about wellness and we're talking about living in place and aging in place, are we seeing any major features that really stick out to something that's very important to have as we are going through this aging population and as they are kind of living in place and no longer, getting into these retirement homes?
That's amazing. That's a great question. I'm going to tell you, we won't have enough time on this podcast. So what I can tell you is yes, there are features, but let's just look at the home, for instance. The home, most homes in Canada that, the style of the homes haven't really changed since the 1950s. Many of the homes, more than 80% of our housing stock needs to be modified. So what are those modifications that we need to be looking at? First and foremost, most people will look at the entrance, how we're entering into those homes. And do we have access? And a lot of times, don't always think about you as an individual. It might be a guest that comes to your home. It might be extended family members. So I'm going to use my 1953 bungalow as an example. 1953 bungalow, standard 3 bedrooms with a laundry in the basement, small kitchen. Access to the home was 5 steps. And I have a cousin who's a paraplegic from a motorcycle accident. I have a mother that is 95 and in a wheelchair, and both of them cannot come into my home because I can't get them even up the front steps. So when you're looking at some of the changes that are happening in homes, the first thing we want to address is the entrance. But we then have to look at whether you're a homeowner utilizing that space or you are a guest coming into that home. What are the 2 most important spaces next? Bathroom.
Yes.
Because if you can't get into a bathroom, then
there's no point
of even coming. If you can't get in the home, forget it. We're done. We're but if you can't get into the bathroom, that's the next problem. And then the next area is the kitchen area. So what we're seeing is modifications happening in those areas. And again, as I always like to go back to, and then we need to look at the wellness within those spaces. So if we wanted to really drill it down, what we're seeing is for aging in place or living in place, we're looking at not just the access in the front door, but getting into the spaces. So a bathroom, for instance, a standard bathroom door might accommodate a walker or a wheelchair to come through. But sometimes we find bathroom doors that are only 24 inches. There's no way you're getting into that bathroom. Yeah. But then think about those spaces and how people, if they are using a mobility device, how are they actually able to transfer from that mobility device to use the facilities? Can they reach the faucets? Can they even turn the faucets on? Meaning, do they have challenges with their fine motor skills? So are we looking at lever faucets, motionless faucets, lever handles on doors, all these great little things that don't actually cost a lot to modify your home, but can make the difference of how your home adapts to you as your needs change versus how you have to modify yourself to move within that space.
Yeah. So when we're talking about these modifications, I kind of have this picture of, the typical grandmother's bathroom where you have grab bars everywhere and you have the, toilet. I know that's not what it is now, right? I know that's not what we're looking for, but are there modifications that we can make that seamlessly kind of fit into the interior of your home, right? Because we're all about aesthetics. We love to be comfortable in our homes.
Yeah. So the new aging consumer is living a longer and healthier life than previous generations. And, they're influential. They're influential consumers. And what they want is a well-designed space that empowers them to live in style no matter what their age. So, Olga, you made a really great point there when you said seamlessly integrate, because nobody wants to be defined by age. Nobody wants to be defined by a disability or any challenges that they have. And so let's go right back to the front door. What a lot of people do what I could do is put a ramp on the outside of my home. And now my mother can access the front door. And most of your listeners will say, well, that's an easy. But look at that ramp. Drive down. Have you ever driven down a street and seen a ramp? Right away, what screams out to you? Because what screams out to me is somebody with a disability lives there, somebody that's aging lives there, somebody that requires assistance lives there. And this is a target. This is a target not only for, your safety and security, but it also labels you. Absolutely. And who wants to be labeled with any of that? That's a stigma. And so how do we change that? Because we're dealing with building code, and I know you're going to probably have people to talk about building code coming on future episodes. But the point is that looking at the way we're landscaping or designing and building new homes and renovating them, perhaps there's an opportunity to rethink how we're entering the home and doing, a gradual slope to the front. Now, it's not possible because depending where you live, you might have 15 stairs. Yeah. Depending if you live in Toronto and the beaches, where I used to live at one point, it can be very steep getting into a home. But other homes in other areas of the GTA or in Ontario allow you to have a different type of grade in the front that could create an easier access. So that's something that's important. But also, I don't want to be, even if I might not need it right away, I don't want to be defined by institutional looking grab bars. Exactly. I do not want to have those ugly looking things within that space. And so how are we looking at the spaces? And this is why I think it's really important not only to work with a designer that understands this or work with a trades professional that is aware of all these great products that are being produced and improved to address this very need, because it's about creating a beautiful space that seamlessly integrates all of these great features so that we can feel proud of our space too.
Absolutely, right? Because right now we're spending so much more time in our homes. And like you said, in 2020 and 2021, it was a pivotal moment for everyone. We are now spending up to 75% in our homes. And we need to be comfortable. We need to enjoy the space that we're looking at. It needs to be functional. It needs to be beautiful. It needs to be aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I did a Google Trends search on keywords, and the word wellness alone was up 850%. So what does that tell you? That tells you that consumers are actually Googling wellness. And so if you look at the wellness industry as a whole, it's a $4 trillion industry. Wellness incorporates food, cosmetics, bamboo clothing, everything, and the home. The wellness that relates to our industry in terms of residential and the built environment. It's a $198 billion industry. And actually in 2017 it was 134. So you can see how quickly it's increased, meaning it's at the forefront of what everybody wants in the built environment.
I'm Mike Holmes. I've been trying to educate people on how to build it right, how to prioritize your renovations, and how to pick products and materials that will last. We love speaking to the Improve experts about how they are supporting the skilled trades. This is important to us, and it takes a whole community to stand behind the effort. Visit ImproveCanada.com to start your home improvement project the right way. Subscribe to the Know Your Reno podcast to learn more about how to renovate it right. And if you do see me at Improve Canada, please come by and say hi. Hope you enjoy the podcast and keep making it right.
So when you say wellness, what exactly are we talking about within the context of a home? What is wellness in the home?
Well, that's a great question. As a WELL AP accredited professional through the International Well Building Standards, we look at home through different lenses. So first and foremost, our indoor air quality is probably definitely the most polluted. It's more polluted than outside. Remember, outside air is regulated through policies and government and so on, right. But indoor is not. And so when people think indoor air, my air is I just open my windows, or I've got air purifier. Exactly. Yeah. You know what? There's so much more to know. So let's look at the indoor air quality. The kitchen, perhaps, is one of the most polluted areas in the home. Why? Because of the cooking appliance you're using, of the kind of cooking oils that you might be using, of the chemicals you're using to clean, of the people that gather. We all know that the kitchen is the heart of the home. We have a lot of people gathering. As human beings, we off-gas formaldehyde. We off-gas, or we have CO2 that we're breathing into the air. And so we've got all these different things that are happening. VOCs, those are your volatile organic compounds that come in through your furnishings, the products that you're specifying, the things that you're bringing into your home. All of this is bringing really poor indoor air quality. And as a result of that, it's aggravating perhaps some preconditions you might have, like bronchial conditions, your asthmas and so on. It could aggravate people that have progressive conditions, or people that have been diagnosed with illnesses like cancer and so on. So that's the first and foremost. Then you're looking at wellness. You're looking at the thermal comfort within your home. You're looking at your humidity in your home. If it's too dry, it's not good. If it's too humid, you're creating a whole bunch of other problems like mold and mildew that's coming in. Now you're breathing that spores. Again, it's going back to the air. You're looking at your lighting within your home. So humans, we were not born in a building. We were born in nature. Our circadian clock within our body works with the natural pattern of the earth, meaning, you get up in the morning, lighting is at a certain level. By noon, the sun is, you've got brightness, so your lighting levels are changing. As you go into the evening, it starts to get darker. Your biological clock is preparing you for bed, creating your melatonin so you can sleep. If you disrupt this, or if you have consistently exactly the same light all day, you're disrupting your biological clock. And then you look at water filtration in your space. So acoustics, oh my gosh, nobody talks about acoustics.
We have someone that actually is going to do an entire episode on acoustics.
Thank goodness, because I have to say, people really dismiss acoustics. So for you, those of you that are listening and you've been working from home, educating from home with your children, entertaining from home, just think of the challenges you've had because of perhaps maybe your open concept space, or even closing a door, you can still hear everybody.
Or the Zoom calls where you have dogs and you have children in the background.
Exactly.
Brings me back to early pandemic days. It's good.
Well, and so acoustics, having the proper acoustics in your place will reduce stress. Stress, when you have high levels of stress, your body is producing cortisol. We want you to be in a serotonin, kind of in that calm space, as opposed to a stressful environment, which is really fight, flight, freeze. I got to get out of here.
Absolutely.
That's not a healthy environment. And so acoustics, and a lot of people don't know this, is that when you go to sleep at night, if you've got noise that's filtering through your windows and doors from outside, or even the neighbors, because you live in a townhouse and you've got that adjoining, even though you're asleep, your brain isn't turned off. You're still hearing this, and you'll wake up the next day with, I didn't have a good night's sleep. I slept all night, but I didn't have.
Absolutely.
Why? And that has to do partially to acoustics.
And especially seeing as we are in the GTA and there's so many condos, right? We're building so many shoebox condos with these paper thin walls. I imagine that's a huge, huge issue that we need to start addressing as soon as possible.
The noise pollution that's out there. And so as homeowners, as you're looking, whether you live in a condo and you're doing a renovation there, or you're living in a single family unit, a low rise, mid-rise, whatever your dwelling is, it's really important to look at those different components of what makes a well environment, because it can really affect not just you, but it affects your family members. And so if I was to sit at the table with you and ask you as a listener, how important is your family's health? I want to believe that you're going to answer me how.
Extremely. That's all I think about. That we want to make sure that everyone, our immediate family, our extended family, everyone's comfortable. And, we can, like you said, your mother can't get in your house, right? We don't want that, especially as my parents are aging, grandparents, right? We want to make sure that we're still able to gather and I'm still able to see everyone in a comfortable environment for everybody.
Exactly. And so, what I hope the takeaway from this podcast, this short podcast that we're doing right now, and hopefully we'll have more, is that the listeners should know that the residential environment is changing. They themselves have been thinking about this. They know that they want to make accommodations to their space. They just don't know what they need to do, and why it's really important to reach out to people that have some knowledge and expertise in this. If you're not familiar, then, do your due diligence, do some research, come and speak to experts, because, some people will say, oh, I'll just put an air purifier in your home. But one of the other things that we talk about in the wellness world, and as it relates to air, the air quality, is ozone. So we have two types of ozone. We have ozone that protects the earth, but we have another kind of ozone that is actually generated off of equipment or devices, even like air purifiers. So some people might say, I'll just put an air purifier in my home, and that's a good first step, but it's really important to analyze or to understand even the types of equipment that you're bringing in, the filters that you're using in your furnaces, the HEPA filters and so on, the air purifiers that you're putting in your home, because some of these devices might actually create ozone. And so you're going to say, wait a second, ozone, are you talking about the ozone that protects the planet? And I'm going to say there's two kinds. We've got the ozone that protects the planet, and then we have ozone that's generated off of certain type of mechanical devices, which could actually impact your lungs in a negative way. So there's a lot that goes into really understanding wellness in the home. Even something as simple as your basement. A lot of people are spending time in the basement. Yeah. People are have a basement apartments, but what you don't realize is the earth is living and breathing all the time. And we actually have an issue or not an issue, I should say. We have more awareness right now with radon. So if you're not familiar with radon, this is where it comes off of uranium. The earth is decaying. It produces radon. Radon seeps up through the ground, through your basement. And it's one of the leading causes next to smoking that causes lung cancer. Oh, wow. And a lot of Canadians don't know this. No. And so having something as simple as a radon test in your basement, understanding if you have it, then you can mitigate it. And mitigation is so easy. It's just an extraction fan. Yeah. As is when we talked earlier about the kitchen, and kitchen being the most polluted room in the home, it's something as simple as having a proper extraction fan in the kitchen, or a ventilation fan, or those hood vents that go over top of your appliances. So you as a homeowner or listener, even trades, we don't know all of this. We can't possibly spend all our time learning it. And that's why it's really important to actually do your own research, but also reach out to professionals that understand this, that can guide you and help you with this information.
Yeah, I think that's an extremely important conversation. And I think that that's definitely going to be more prevalent as we move into, the aging population and accommodating them. But also, if someone is not ready to undergo a full-on modification, renovation to their home, are there easy upgrades that they can make, doing their due diligence, doing their research, but maybe slightly easier upgrades that they can do that would make an infinite impact?
Oh, we can in every single room of the home. So if you're looking at, so you might want to look at your lighting. and really assess your lighting and understand that whole circadian lighting and that circadian rhythm. We can look at that. We can look at the new technologies that can be implemented. That's a whole other podcast, wellness technologies, looking at technologies that not only can keep us safe, secure, but how they can actually monitor your indoor air quality. And that could be something as switching out your devices that you currently have to ones that have these readings on them, buying a proper air filtration system and just plugging it in. Like that's easy. You don't even have to have that installed in your furnace. Furnaces, I had a friend that just purchased what you call a UVGI. So it actually is a light system that was that actually could be. She put it in on her own furnace herself without any technical experience. But what it does is it destroys any type of viruses or bacteria. It's that UV lighting.
Right.
So those type of things. Paint can make a significant, right now, Canada, I work also in the residential home furnishings industry, and we talk a lot about color and paint. And, we love, as Canadians, love a gray environment. Everything is gray and white. But actually, color can actually play a significant role on your wellness. And so understanding how that impacts you. And remember that because you, as the homeowner, might love a gray and white home, and there's nothing wrong with that, but your children might perform better or other family members might perform better with having color in their space. So looking at that, you're looking at, something simple as even the window coverings, having them automated. Maybe if you're only able to switch out one window in your home to make it soundproof, you might want to do that in your bedroom. Oh my gosh, the list can go on. Every door should be lever handles. Every faucet should be lever. You don't have to go the motionless faucet, but you could do lever handles, meaning that you're not, if you have challenges with fine motor skills or, down the road, you could end up having that. They're easier to turn on and turn off. If you're going into bigger modifications, then there are so many other things we could be talking about. And I'm hoping that you'll invite me back for another episode where we can actually talk about some of the bigger modifications that you can do. But there are a lot of little things you can do. Just even decluttering, because clutter brings stress, brings dust, brings all kinds of things into your space. Yeah. So think about the simple things. And if you are starting to get more into a modification, even the placement of your light switches and your plugs, oh, please, how difficult it is for somebody like me that, I'm still able-bodied. My eyes age. Everybody's eyes age at the age of 40. You notice that your eyes are starting to age. Bending down and plugging in, where our current outlets are, if they could just be raised up to 18 inches off the ground floor, or the light switches lowered down, that would make it so much easier for a lot of people to use those spaces. You don't think about it because you don't need it right now. It's not until you actually start to develop challenges with your mobility, with your eyesight, with how your fine motor skills, with your hearing, that you appreciate these little slight modifications that you do to your space.
Absolutely. And we often tend to not think about things that are not necessary right now that may be necessary down the line. And definitely a big theme for the first season of the podcast has been planning. Plan ahead, plan well in advance, because it's going to come. It's going to be here anyway, so you might as well just be prepared for it.
Well, I commend you and applaud you for that, because that's what we don't do. We don't think, what will my life look like 5 years down the road and 10 years? And please don't make this only about you. Think of your children, possibly your grandchildren, your extended family that comes into your space. I had somebody once, when I asked somebody once about their plan for aging in place, and they said, oh, well, you know what? I'll just move into a condo. And that might be an easy fix, but think about the bathroom in that condo. Yeah. Most likely has a tub. It doesn't have a zero threshold shower, meaning that you can't just walk into your shower. Yeah. That's not the solution. The solution is doing it.
Absolutely. Or even in condos, the fire alarm goes off and the elevator is not working.
Oh, great point. Yeah. That's a whole other issue to deal with.
Absolutely.
But there are a lot, you need to take ownership of your own space and understand that there are solutions, and there are manufacturers out there that are improving products. I came across one called a Roto-Door. It's one of my favorite products, and it's hard to explain on a podcast. Not sure if we're able to show that at some point, but it's such a fantastic concept and idea, because if you do have a mobility device, opening a door and then you got to back up to have that full door open so you can move through it. And this device and the hinge on this device makes it easier to go both directions into the room. But manufacturers right now whether they're Canadian manufacturers, American, European, wherever they are, they're all thinking about how can we improve our products for wellness and aging in place, or what I like to say, living in place. So manufacturers are doing it. Your dealers, your retailers are starting to recognize these types of products and making it more available to their consumers. The trades are starting to learn and take courses. As a matter of fact, the Canadian Home Builders Association in January will launch their new adaptive home training program to teach the trades how to modify homes. And we're looking through the lens of not just aging and living, but we're looking at accessibility, we're looking at wellness, we're looking at how are we improving the residential space. So on that note, that's really what it's all about today.
I think it's an incredible shift that we're seeing. I'm hoping to see more of it. And I hope we'll have a lot more people, maybe get you in here for a panel to teach all of the contractors as they're working on these future homes and these new builds, what they really should be taking into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Linda. If anyone wants to get in touch with Linda, we will have all of the contact information down in the description below. You can get in touch with her. She will tell you a lot more about the accommodations that you could be doing and open up the conversation even further.
Yep, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Know Your Reno. If you would like to get in touch with today's speaker or any of our large number of showrooms at Improve Canada, please check the description for a link to book an appointment with us at Canada's largest home improvement center. Don't forget to keep in touch with us on our socials, and we will see you next week for another value-packed episode to make your next home renovation a breeze.